I had a plan because Stephen said I did a poem for him on Saturday, and he said, and one for today, and I said, okay, and a 10-minute one for today, and I said, can I do a longer version of it today? So what I did was I wrote a long poem and then compartments. The driver and passengers, their flesh and their blood and their bones, their skin and their hair, the brains in their heads, the food in their stomachs, the feces in their bowels, the urine in their bladders, their clothes, the money in their pockets, the dirt on their shoes, as well as absolutely all of the empty spaces in the car are made entirely out of aspirin. The vinegary smell that escapes from the car's body shell is the perfume worn by the aspirin woman who sits completely engulfed in aspirin in the aspirin passenger seat. She smiles to herself with aspirin lips over aspirin teeth and an aspirin mouth that's crammed completely full of aspirin. She smiles to herself because she can sense that she's pregnant with an embryo that's a minuscule, errant, miraculous fleck of paracetamol. And okay, this next poem, this poem is it's called Introduction to a Poem. I have a kind of rule that I don't like to introduce poem, although I did kind of slightly that last one. But generally speaking, I have a rule that I don't like to introduce my poems because I've noticed that people's misinterpretations of what I'm trying to say are invariably more interesting than my intention. So I kind of don't usually talk about what I'm going to read before I read it. What this poem is, it isn't a poem. That actually is no poem. This is just the introduction to a non-existent poem. It's called Introduction to a Poem. So I was thinking about how lysergic acid diethylamide can be consumed on a blotter, which is a piece of paper, and how words can be consumed on a page, which is also a piece of paper, and how you might eat a poem as a performance, or because you'd made a bet with someone and said something like you'd eat their poem if it won such and such poetry competition, and it had won, and how if you did eat the poem, it might have an effect like making you feel sick or just a bit empty. Or it might have the effect of making you feel a bit trippy because you behaved in a way which you might think is slightly subversive, and so ordinary existence might fleetingly seem a bit bourgeois and tame. And then I was thinking, if you actually just read a poem, it also might make you feel sick or just a bit empty. And how most poems just make me feel angry, unless they're really good, in which case they make me feel angry, but in a different way. And then I was thinking how something you believe to be a drug might just be a placebo, and how even a placebo will have an effect, and how when you see a word in a poem and you have no way of knowing if it's the actual word rattling with all its official associations, or just a placebo word with mysterious intentions inside it. And that a word like ant might be frightening to people who are frightened of ants, that they cannot be certain if that word ant is referring to an ant or to ant of ant and deck, or it might be the word anterior with the area hidden under a pen or hidden under an ant. And I was thinking how any word might be a placebo word, and how the intention of the person who uses the word, the person who wields the word, is unknown to a reader, and how a poem full of placebo words that only pretended to refer to the things that they seemed to refer to would not have the expected effect, but would have another, perhaps ironic or disconcerting effect. And then I was thinking about how you absorb words through your eyes or your ears or your fingertips if you read Braille. And I was thinking how you can ingest drugs orally in pills or in a linctus or an infusion or nasally in a nasal spray or through snorting a powder or in eye drops or injections or through breathing a gas or in a suppository in your rectum or vagina or urethra or on your skin in a patch. And I was thinking, if you did put a poem in a patch and wore it on your arm for a day, how none of that poem's content or meaning would seep out of the patch into your bloodstream to be carried to your brain and to your conscious or even your unconscious mind. And I was thinking how prosaic the world sometimes seems because its magic is so effectively hidden, though it's there if you know where to look for it. And I wondered if you might absorb a poem as a suppository, or if you might chop it up and snort it, or boil it in a spoon and inject it, and how dangerous that would be, because words are dirty. They are byproducts of an industrial process, and the sound they make is the noise of a machine that demands fuel. They sound like urges and wanting, and I was thinking how words try to get you and make you do things you didn't want to do, and how drugs are like that. How they sometimes make you do things you didn't want to do, like fall over or hallucinate or vomit or even get better, because you may not want to get better if you come to enjoy being looked after and worried over. And I was thinking about how some drugs are controlled, like morphine and pethidine and methadone and fentanyl, and can only be used without penalties in certain contexts. And how some words are controlled, like butt plug and I love you, and can only be used without penalty in certain contexts. And I was thinking about side effects and how drugs have unwanted side effects, and that those might be different in different subjects, and how words also have side effects, and that those side effects vary according to the subject, so that one person might find a word offensive while another might not, and how the effect of a drug might be influenced by the nature of the person administering the drug, so that a doctor giving a pill might influence the pill's efficacy differently to a nurse giving the same pill. And the words hands up when spoken by an armed policeman in the Gare du Nord has a different effect on you when spoken by a 5-year-old child in a cowboy outfit. And I was thinking, if I could take all the things I've been thinking about, maybe I could make a poem out of them. Thank you.